So I think it's pretty evident to most Americans that there is currently a fundamental lack of social cohesion. We're polarized, we are increasingly tribalistic, we're seeing the rise of white supremacy and political factionalization. Even within the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, there's different factions. So obviously, social cohesion is an issue, and if you are president, I do want you to be thinking about ways that you can increase social cohesion, how you can foster that that type of spirit of, I guess, camaraderie with fellow Americans. But the way that Pete Buttigieg, 2020 presidential candidate, is proposing we foster social cohesion, it struck me when I heard him talk about this, because I don't like what he pitches as his plan to foster social unity. Take a look.
I'm really glad I did get the chance to serve. It helped me connect with very different Americans, people, especially when I was deployed to Afghanistan, who I had almost nothing in common with. Different politics, different generation, different racially, different regionally, but you learn to trust each other with your life, because that's what the job requires. And I want more Americans to have that, but I don't want you to have to go to war to get it. It's one of the reasons I think national service will hopefully become one of the themes of the 2020 campaign. Because we really want to talk about the threat to social cohesion that that helps characterize this presidency, but also just this era. And one thing we could do that would help change that would be to make it, if not legally obligatory, then
certainly a social norm that anybody after they're 18 spends a year in national service, so that afterwards, whether it's civilian or military, it's the first question on your college application if you're applying for college, or it's the first question when you're being interviewed for a job if you're going right into the workforce. Now, to do that,
we're going to have to create more service year opportunities, and we're going to have to find a way to fund it. But I think it's worth approaching.
I feel like that point, and you discussing those difficulties with it, sort of strikes me on that, because this has always really resonated with me. The civilian-military divide that you're talking about is something that I've been interested in a very long time. I wrote a book about it. And it's something that I have struggled with.
But again, one of the things I'm trying to have us have a conversation about are what are the conditions that made this moment, this presidency, possible? And one of them, I think, is a fraying in the social cohesion that we experience. And so some of that kind of stewardship, kind of housekeeping of our society, I think requires direct policy intervention that, to me, makes something like what national service could bring us a little more urgent.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like it one bit. But for something like this, where you dedicate a year of your life, a year of your short life to this, it makes me feel uneasy, because then we start talking about the draft, and that's what Rachel Maddow brought up. She says the easy answer about the civilian-military divide is that there should be a draft, and it sounds like a great solution, and everybody likes it except the military. What? Who likes the draft? If you look
just to say with all my heart, when Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge, he's talking about the imagination that men and women, citizens in this city, bring to the issues that affect their lives collectively. And I hear that in the voices that are right here in this audience right now, and I know those voices resonate across this city as well. How do we begin to marshal up our energy, our passion, our imagination to make the changes that we know are necessary? And where do we put our voice, and who do we put our voice behind? Who are the truth tellers in this community that resonates with citizens in this community? Who are the truth tellers who are able to now connect what they do right now in this community on a national level? This is what we're talking about. This is the kind of transformation here. And it starts right here. It's been happening. It's been happening. It hasn't always been acknowledged outside of where it's happening, but it's being acknowledged right now. And we're going to carry these voices not only in South Carolina, but across this country as we move into making and changing and transforming this country in the way we need to do.
Thank you. And Dr. West.
Yeah, I would say to my brothers and sisters of all colors here in this magnificent state of South Carolina, I challenge you, can you meet the standards of the great ones who have already come out of this state? Do you really know who Robert Smalls was? The creator of the first public school system in the whole nation.
Right here.
Because he had an understanding of greatness. Somewhere he read, he or she is greatest among you will be your servant. We'll focus on the least of these. We'll focus on those catching hell. Do you really know who Marion Wright Edelman is? South Carolina. The great prophetic voice building on the legacy of Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Bacon, Martin Luther King Jr., and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, still strong at 79 years old in a city that used to be chocolate called Washington, D.C. Do you really know who Jesse Jackson is? From this town, that this magnificent vanilla brother named Bernie Sanders stood with a chocolate brother named Jesse Jackson in 1988 and said, we need to talk about poverty. We need to talk about wealth. We need to bring all of us together no matter what color, because we have a commitment to integrity and principle, and we're concerned about the least of these, but you have to have courage. We've been living in an age for 40 years where too many folk are still scared and intimidated. Walking around laughing when it ain't funny and smiling when... You got to straighten your backs up. You got to call into question some of your milquetoast centrist leadership who's not telling the truth. And say, we have voices too. We concerned about something too. And if you really have that kind of care, you really have that kind of concern, then you have courage, then you have a moral consistency. What I love about this brother is not that he's a God, not that he's a deity. He's a human being trying to be morally consistent and bear witness in such a way that he can bring us together and change this nation. That's what we're talking about. That's Brother Bernie Sanders we're talking about. That's Brother Bernie Sanders we're talking about.
So, Senator Sanders, you are our last guest.
So, Rania, you're asking me to follow that. Thank you very much.
That's the